Let's see if it's working over here. It might be. We'll find out, won't we? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. I don't think it is. Man, Rumble is being. Hmm. Yeah. Oh, it is working. Hey. All right. As we warm everything up here. Hello, everybody.
Hey guys, welcome to Political Head Trauma,
Um,
where if
Head Trauma had a podcast that would sound like this. If you guys are joining us tonight,
first of all, thank you. We know there's other places you could be and other things you could be watching. So if you're tuning in live, thank you. We think this show is very important and we're very excited for the guests that are coming on regarding the Stansbury Service Agency. And I know a lot of you don't live in Stansbury and probably a lot of you don't live in Tooele County. But one thing I can assure you is that little situations like this, where your taxes are taken without your consent, they are taken all over the country in these small agencies that have taxability on your property. And there's not a lot you can do about it when you're one person, two people, four people. But what's important is the community is aware of what's going on. They understand it. So they don't just get a bill in the mail and nearly faint, especially with people on a fixed income. This is asking for more money or sustaining money they asked for in the past. And the truth is that this is happening all over the country.
well, how about the tax hike we're getting in the county?
Is that from the school board?
Mm-hmm.
On your property tax? Civics 101, folks. A lot of people don't understand civics, and that's no fault of their own. It's not taught the way it used to be back in the day in school. And a lot of people are living their lives paycheck to paycheck because of the economy and where we're at with that. So being at a meeting a couple times a month isn't easy. And so tonight our guests will be Trent Ladle and Heather Lester. And I have to tell you, these are two citizens at Stansbury Park who attend these meetings, follow them closely. We do plan to invite some members of the service agency, but tonight I want to get it from a community perspective. I'm a member of the community as well, and I try to attend meetings as often as I can. But with the elections and everything, it's been really difficult for me. And these are two people that I've had the honor of knowing and learning from, and they go the extra mile. Heather rarely misses a meeting, and she can provide so much information, and Trent, and both of them do excellent research. And their whole point of being on the show tonight is to help educate the populace. Again, that's Jared and I's main goal with this podcast. The more we know, the better citizens we can be and more empowered we are where it comes to our government. And the agency is a small portion of the government. So in Stansbury Park, we're unincorporated. The county is the government taxing entity. They provide our services and everything like that. Then there's this little small agency made up of 5 people, and they're cut in half between the Greenbelt and the Water District, I think.
You look at
Parks
me.
and Rec, I don't know. But the last few years have been very difficult because they had an embezzlement scandal happen.
Oh, that was heavy. That was a lot
And
too.
that was over $1 million over the 2-year time. And it took them 2 years to notice it. Now, thank goodness insurance covered that. But not even a year later, they were asking for a ginormous tax hike in taxes there in Stansbury Park. And I'm going to let Trent start from there when we bring him in. Now, it's this, we don't want to, we're not doing this show to try to call people bad guys or whatever. If anything, I think a lot of people, including some members of our agency, maybe aren't equipped with the answers. Now, transparency was promised to us years ago, and I've seen them try. So I don't want to say that they're just like giving the middle finger to everybody in Stansbury, but I haven't seen them do the things that they promised. So I would really like to dive into that. Before that, I'd like to give a huge shout out again to Mrs. Tracy Shaw and her incredible team, Nikki, and there's a whole bunch over at the county clerk's office in Tooele County. They have been working tirelessly to adjudicate ballots and to make sure every single ballot is counted. And go to the utah.gov to see the final results and learn a little bit about how Tooele County fared in the election. We've got excellent electeds, and we swept again so that all our seats were red. And I'm very, very proud of that. And that takes a lot of hard work, not just on behalf of like the GOP and the leadership team, like myself and Alan and Christina and Whit, but it takes those candidates who work really, really hard, and they do it one-on-one by knocking on doors, by making phone calls. And we are very excited. We're going to have Representative Bridger Bolender, on next week, and he'll be on the show. And the following week, we will have Representative Nicolene Peck on. And Nicolene is brand new to the office. And the week after that, we're going to have Senator Sandal join us. And Senator Sandal and Bridger Bolender, they've done this before. And we're about to go into session again. And so Jared and I wanted to talk to them and get their ideas on what to expect in session this upcoming year. And to see how, how it is, and then to see what Nicolene has been working on. Just newly elected, and though she's been at the Capitol many, many times on behalf of families, now she's going on behalf of Tooele County. And we're really excited to hear from her, congratulate her on a well-run race. And Bridger also. They both won handedly, and we're very proud of them. They ran a race with integrity, with facts, with vigor, and they're so supportive, not only to the party here in the county, but to their neighbors. Regardless of how they vote, they had some really great conversations with Democrats, independents, Republicans, and they want to represent everyone. And that's what I love about them. And that's what I love about living in a small town. You run into these folks all over town, and it's so nice to know that they have you in mind when they're on the Hill. And I know Nicolene will be no different.
Yeah, no, she's great. Nicolene is a person of immense character. Bridger, of course, is as well.
Yeah.
For those of you tonight who are choosing to be with us while we've got the Tyson Paul fight
Should we tell them that?
gearing up.
We might lose some of
Thank you.
Can I just say, I hope this isn't a fixed fight. I hope this isn't some press
Just
scandal
make money
to make sure Mike Tyson gets his 20 million, but he takes a fall in the fourth round. Like, I'm so sick of boxing because it always feels so. That's why I love the UFC. Yeah. I mean, you really get to see stuff. And I don't mind the blood, and I don't mind the ground and pound. It feels like boxing. If it's going to be a bunch of guys dancing around a ring, I mean, I've seen Mike Tyson. I am Gen X, as are you. I remember my father buying the Mike Tyson fight and everyone coming over. And before everyone sits down, he's already knocked the guy out. And there goes, I think back then it was like $50 to pay for pay-per-view. But it's like, it was a great
Imagine the
knockout.
guys who spent $1,000 to sit in the seats.
Exactly. Mike Tyson wasn't exactly a good return on your money, but it was always a good show.
I don't know. It's interesting. It is what it is. It's been the talk of the summer. They boiled us over with this all summer long. So we'll see how it turns out. In all full transparency, I have it on my phone in front of me while we do the show. Because
well, what if people are going to watch it later? We should probably not give
it's a big event.
spoilers
Hey,
or warn them.
I'll tell you what, I will try not to
If you
share.
see him jump up or shake, like
Start running around the room. Anyways, but no, so tonight we're talking about taxes. Taxes are heavy. We just had a big tax hike here in the county to afford a school district that, in my humble opinion, is bursting at the seams. The administrative costs of schools right now are getting ridiculous, not to mention, I mean, right now we just got Trump in and they're talking about, the left is boiling over saying, oh, he's going to fire everyone. And it should happen. It needs to happen. We cannot allow government to drown us in regulation and debt and really just take away the well-being of the nation. They always say common sense gun control. Well, we need common sense government control. I think that's a crossroads we're at as a nation. And along with that, we're talking about Stansbury tonight. Stansbury is a different place. It's not really an official government, I would say. It's more of
it's an agency.
An agency. And it feels like they're not getting buy-in. And we're in a complicated time where everyone's busy. Everyone has complicated lives. And then, you've got, everyone's work. Both parents are working. If they have kids, they got to get home. They've got to deal with the 4 hours of homework, make dinner, source dinner. They've got to try to keep their kids off the phone to go to bed there. And then they throw a meeting together. I don't know if the meeting is poorly advertised or not, but
I think it is. And I don't think it's filmed.
Yeah. Things
so you
like
can't
that.
watch it online, which would be so helpful.
But it just feels like government is over here saying, we want to do this for our acclaim. We're just going to take more from you to do this. And at least the Stansbury agency isn't, printing money to do it, but they
might as well
are
be.
going into debt through trying to get stuff done. And then why does it feel like the government always says, we want to build this, we want to make this, and that never comes to fruition?
Or the things they want to build, no one's asking for.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you want to do this and this. Well, how are you going to pay for it? And once you figure out how you're going to pay for it, now how many people want it? It's one thing to want a splash pad. Everybody, when I had little kids, I wanted a splash pad out there so badly. But then I thought, how are they going to pay for it?
What if we just took over splash pads for adults and then we'd be okay paying for it? See me out there frolicking,
Since I've lived in Stansbury Park, which is over 20 years now, the talk of having a rec center was always there. Well, I've been to a few rec centers. Is this really loud? I feel really loud. Am I not?
Do you feel really loud? I don't know.
Yeah. But I've been to a few rec centers. They're not cheap. We're talking millions of dollars to build and then to staff and then to maintain. And there's no way, unless we had a private donor come in and pay for it or donate it. An agency like ours really couldn't fund something like that without substantial taxes going up. And when we have Deseret Peak 10 minutes away, which is covered by the county, our taxes already. I think having a rec center seems like it's just too much, but
do they
people
have a
think they
splash
need
pad?
it. Yeah, I think there's a splash pad going
I'm
up.
taking over adult splash pad time. I'm going to frolic through it with a beer. Can you do that?
No,
with a
not
beer?
in Utah. No open containers. No, sorry. Just blew up your dream, huh?
I've got to think this one through.
Well, don't hurt yourself.
Maybe partake of the beer, then the splash pad.
Right. Well, it's things like this. They have an amphitheater, which it's a jihad of mine. They built it before they actually figured out what was going to happen with the property that sits to the east of it. And this huge argument about that property. And the person who developed it bought the property fair and square, went to the county, asked for a change in the way it was going to be zoned from commercial to residential. And man, did our community blow up over that. And oh, Melly, thank you. You never told me where to get Lion's Mane mushroom coffee yet. I need your expertise on that because I'll try anything.
What does it do?
I think it'll stop my nose from
Oh, really?
running. I don't know. Or
Outstanding.
allergies. But this whole thing started where it got really bad. The community was torn in half. A couple years before that, we were really kind of broken between incorporating or not. So our community is very small, but we've got thousands of people and we are a bedroom community. But this amphitheater they put up, I think they did it with good intentions to provide a community for people to gather and listen to music or do fairs and things like that. But then this whole set of townhomes gets built and every single one was sold before they even broke ground because there is a housing need, as everybody knows. And I think the developer built them to look nice. There were negotiating meetings. He was going to have them be rentals, but I mean, during the meeting, I said, please don't make them rentals. Make them for sale and make them expensive like other houses in the area and make them nice. And he's like, okay, I'm just happy to hear somebody give input without trying to gouge my eyeballs out. Yeah. And they're like red or
Are those ones right there as you're on 36?
But yeah, past the hospital, the U of U clinic. I don't think they look terrible. And they provided a lot of families and seniors a place to live, which in Stansbury Park, we need. We need more housing, even though we've got tons of rooftops. But more importantly, we need a business district. And it has to be planned out and thought up well. You can't throw a business in between two homes, of course. A lot of people own businesses and work from their homes in Stansbury. And our community is special. We have so much green space. We have the lake, and that was another kerfuffle. And initially, when I purchased my home, we were told the lake was private. You don't need a fishing license as long as you live there. No motorized boats, things like that. But then over the course of the last 10 years, come out that no, it's a public lake. And yet we don't see fish and game out there. And nobody's monitoring the lake when people come in from all over the state or all over the county to use the lake. And they don't always treat it well. And so we're missing out on a lot of opportunities to maybe make some money for the township so that we actually can put it back into our green space and back into the developments that they want to have. So there is so much to go over. And I love that you guys are tuning in. And I'm excited to introduce you to Trent and Heather. But I appreciate them even taking the time tonight because they've been in meetings last night and they've been in a whole bunch. And I am just as guilty for missing them. And like Jared said, most of us are so caught up in life, especially with the economy the way it is. And some parents are working 2 jobs and also trying to stay on top of kids' homework and still trying to make sure they're taking care of their bills. And the last thing they want to do is sit in a meeting and hear about taxes,
Or last thing they can even do,
right?
you know.
It's
But-
true. And I'm so tired of meetings like this telling us what we need to pay. And yet a lot of our community is retired and they're living there on a fixed income. And this is their forever home. This is where they were going to stay. And how do you retire in this economy? But then you've got the school board to deal with and their tax hikes. But then you've got this little agency that's coming at you every year. Because personally, I don't think they manage money well. And it's not just this agency, it's members prior. We've got a couple new electeds in there and I see them trying. So I want to be fair. I don't want to attack them, but I think that this is a game they're playing with people's lives, their financial lives. And my family can't afford it, especially with what this new tax came out. I'm blown away at what my taxes are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's all getting ridiculous. It's, the feds tax us quite a bit. They really do. But, the state hits us hard. The state, if you work overtime, you better restrict how much overtime you work because the state will bump you up a tax bracket. I worked 30 hours of overtime in a week one time.
That was recently, huh?
Yep, that was recently. And the state took of that overtime money, they took over 50% of it.
That's ridiculous.
It's
and they're
insane.
taking your tax off your gas, their tax off your groceries. You're getting taxed on electricity. You're getting taxed on everything. Everything. They got you coming and going. And then they act like, well, it's just a small tax or we're just carrying it over from last year. Well, half of us are barely hanging on because of last year. And so I get sacrifice. I get people needing to sacrifice for their family and maybe go without vacations. But now people are going without groceries, without medicine. And I hope with this election, we are going to see a vast change. But it does not excuse bad behavior now. And yes, we need the state. The county didn't raise taxes on us.
No,
And
but
the school board,
which is
it's a district.
it's not a county entity, but it's named Tooele County School District.
Yes, and the school board did,
but it comes out the same time as your county taxes. It's not like it comes out separate.
No, but they are two different entities.
It comes out in one lump group, and our school board is yes, it's growing. We need all this stuff, but I'll say it again. That new school they built up by the Temple Shadow of
Overlake,
the Celestial Shadow High School. That's what I think they should name it, and they should call them Moroni's
both
Angels.
are beautiful.
They are, but a school doesn't need to be that big of a cathedral.
When sadly,
it doesn't, and
it's
they
already
built it
full when they open it.
with the amount of money they put into it to make it fancy. Could they have maybe spent that money making it more classroom size so that it's not already full the minute the doors open?
Yeah.
So that maybe it's a long-term usable option, but now it's not.
And maybe buy bigger properties so that it can expand, so they can build, a STEM department where all the math and science is located, and build an arts department, like they do in a small college. These schools are already full the second they break ground on them. And that is horrible. That's telling us it's insanity. We're doing the same thing over and over and over and learning nothing.
Well, we can expect that soon people are going to start homeschooling for that financial benefit to pay their Their property
Well, and
taxes.
Trump has said there's going to be a bigger
Oh, we need to get
dollar
rid of the
amount
Department of Education.
for the homeschool. And he does want to do away with Department of Education, which was music, right? To our ears.
Mm.
I mean,
Well, the Department of Education was built in 1979. It was Jimmy Carter trying to buy votes so that he could hopefully beat Ronald Reagan. He failed, but he started the Department of Education, and since the Department of Education started, we have gone from first to 34th. We have not gained value in our national education, the national report card, since it started. We've always lost every year. And so that's where we're at.
well, and Mallory says people are suffering so much. And then she also says, if we, the people, would just network, talk to each other again, we could do so much together. And that is exactly, you nailed it, Mal, because that's the whole reason that drives Jared and I. We've got other stuff we could be doing on a Friday night. But
me.
I feel like
I was going to drink beer and watch boxing anyway.
That's just it. We need to have conversations, political conversations, community conversations, neighborly conversations that don't alienate people, but educate them. And so that we all have skin in this game, and we all know that we can be empowered with knowledge. And sometimes we have to show up at meetings that are boring or hot or just way you're too busy for. But showing up next to your neighbor, and you don't care how they vote, that's not even the issue. It's what is happening to us both right now that we need to fix, because we are the people, we are in charge. At the end of the day, these people are elected to represent us. And if they're not doing it properly, that's our only option, is to say enough is enough. And it's just, I don't know. Mallory says, because I'm right, Holly. You're always right, Mal.
Well, no, yeah, we do need to start talking to each other, but we've got to get our government back in control. We have to do that. We've let our government run amok. And it's not just our government. It's our whole economy's been this built on facade stuff. It's this, we built this economy built on certificates and diplomas, and meritocracy has gone out the window. So
right, experts.
Here's a prediction, a hard prediction. Let's say Trump's whole plan of the tariffs comes true, and businesses start coming back. We're going to have a pretty hard economy that's built up under it, because it's going to be all these bachelor's and master's degree holders who come in there and they're just white knuckling it because they have no experience in the field, no experience in the complications, and they're the ones that are directly in charge. So we're going to have a lot of fall through there. We're not going to be like we were in the 60s and 70s when we were the absolute best made materials on the planet. I think we're going to have to relearn those lessons, because now everything is diploma driven. Everything is rely on an expert who sat in a meeting hall. And
yeah, but
that's going to bite us hard.
I have seen some changes over the last 5 years. Having hired myself and done hiring, and also having to be hired at places. Not every place is so driven now on diplomas. And I don't mean diplomas. They want a high school diploma, but on a degree. Because if you have experience, I have noticed there are companies that are like, oh, we'll take you. We don't want to have to train you to do this job. Yeah. And of course, they're not going to have to pay you as much as maybe if you had a degree. And experience is, when we were young, experience was what they wanted. And you went to get it somewhere.
Driven then too.
But college wasn't attainable like it is now when we were young. In fact, I was the first person in my family to go to college. And my dad eventually went after. But a lot a lot of our parents never went to college. It was a dream to send your kids on to college. And then that's what companies started to expect. But now I'm seeing there's a few companies that I've personally encountered that say, if you've got 3 years experience doing this job, that's just as good as having a bachelor's degree. And it's actually worth more to us. So I'm hoping the shift is happening. I'm hoping.
I
because
hope
we're
so
seeing,
too. I'm blue collar out in the field, and that's not reflecting into that area that's most important.
I want my doctor, I want my lawyer to have that important degree. And I know they work really hard for it and they earn every penny they make. And everybody hates a lawyer till they need one. That's the truth. And I personally think that a lot of these other jobs, a lot of these other careers, and we've talked about this before, they could be done without those things.
Sure could.
And we're seeing the product of kids coming out of college, and it's not like it used to be, where your minor could also sustain you in a career just as easy as your major.
Now your
And
major
you're
can't even sustain.
Yeah, you're learning stuff. You're learning
What's your major in?
accounting, and you're learning criminal justice, or you're not learning Russian literature, or Taylor Swift.
Though that would be a minor. But I mean, let's look at, when people get out of college and they've got not just an art degree, but a very specific,
like 1900s literature in France.
Postmodern
Northern
Mediterranean art.
I mean, there's careers out there for people, but there's probably more people than there are jobs.
I doubt it.
I mean, that's like working in an art gallery.
When people go to college,
being a professor teaching that.
When people go to college and get any major degree in dance, you have failed at life. Dancing is not a degree.
Disagree. I love dance.
Sure.
I never majored in it.
Dancing is not a degree.
But if you want to be a professional dancer in your life, and you want to be on Broadway, or you want to be in the ballet, I mean, having that training and study is highly important. So you just shush your mouth.
No.
Again, though, there's far more people with that degree than there are jobs.
Seriously, no.
Okay, it is 6:30.
Yep. All right, we're going to bring Trent on.
Please welcome Trent Ladle, my neighbor, and I hope many of yours. You're here from Stansbury Park. Hey, Trent.
Hi, guys. Hi, Holly. Hi, Derek. Thanks for having me on.
Got a lot of background noise from what kind of microphone are you using?
It's off my webcam. That's the only one I've got.
Okay. Yeah.
Is someone vacuuming?
No, I've got my 3D printer going over here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's the noise.
That's so cool. A 3D.
Yeah, it's in the middle of a print, or I would pause it.
No, it's fine. 3D printer. It's fine. Trent, I would like you to tell us a little bit about you. How long have you, what do you do? How long have you lived in Stansbury Park? And then I would love it for you to kind of explain to the audience, start from, we've had the embezzlement, and they came to us for a tax increase. And I didn't get to the part where the state said to them, you can't do that. You didn't do proper truth and taxation meetings. You're not going to get your tax increase that year. So they came back in 2023 with another proposal. Will you start us there? Unless you want to back up.
No, I'll start there. Just a little bit about myself. I've been in Stansbury Park, 15 years total. We lived here for 5 years, and then I took a job in Tallahassee, Florida, and so we relocated there, worked there for 3 years, came back in 2000 and, what year was that? 2013. So we left in 2010, came back in 2013, and been here since then. I work in Riverton, and my wife, when we came back and I got this job in Riverton, she asked if we wanted to stay in Stansbury or move somewhere closer to to where I work. And I said, no, I want to stay in Stansbury. I love it out here. And so we found another home out here. So we absolutely love it out here. It's just a small community, and by small, we're actually nearly the size of Grantsville, about
Right.
14,000 people. Obviously, square footage wise, we're significantly smaller, but we're a sizable community compared to some of the other communities that have recently incorporated. But you guys were talking about the service agency, and the service agency was developed a number of years back into two forms of special service districts. The first one is the recreation service district, and the other is the Greenbelt and recreation service districts. And together they make up the Stansbury Service Agency. And they are responsible for all of the public properties in Stansbury Park, including the lake, all of the green belts, all of the parks, the golf course, the clubhouse. Everything that is public in Stansbury Park is basically owned by the service agency. And Holly, you were right. Back in 22, they attempted to put together a increase on what the service agency was charging the residents on their property taxes, and they did not follow the rules according to the state code, and so they were unable to get that through. That particular increase, I can't remember the exact amount, but it was.
I think it
was
started
nominal.
at 86. I think they ended at 86%, but they wanted more, and it got shot down. Then they voted on like Christmas Eve, and we found out from Transcript Bulletin that they settled with 80-something%, and it was just astronomical. But the way we found out was so scandalous.
Yeah, I have not been impressed with this agency board, particularly the one that's been going on for the last 2 years, and people come on and off the board. And interestingly enough, 2 people were voted off the board last year on the elections, and 2 new people came on, and then there was an opening. 2 openings actually. One because one of the board members became the general manager of the agency, and the other resigned for personal reasons. And the service agency took applications from residents to fill those, and one of the people that applied for that was one of the board members that got voted off, and they selected him.
They brought him back.
Yeah.
So, hold on.
Yeah, no.
He was voted off.
Yep.
So they just said, all right.
And the one that was moved to become the general manager, he was playing both roles for a while. It wasn't until I think Heather Lester during one of the meetings said, "What is going on? This is inappropriate." And she's joining us later, but called him out. And that's the only time. And it had been going on for a couple of months. And I mean nothing against James, but I still was like, this is a clown show, folks. You can't have somebody. It's a conflict of interest to have your general manager also being elected, and he's getting paid and running, and yet he's voting on the very it was messy.
It was nearly a year that he was doing both positions, interestingly enough. But so that's kind of some background. Where we're at today is that when everybody got their tax notices in August, there was a significant tax increase, not only from the school board, or excuse me, the school district, but also from the service agency. And it was nearly double on the service agency. But I wanted to take a little bit of time tonight, you guys, and just kind of explain the property tax the statement that everybody gets, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding of how and why we pay the taxes that we do.
You're
And so,
referring to the little card, right, that you get in the mail that gives you your appraisal on your home and then how much is a part of that appraisal, right?
yeah, I don't have that one in front of me. That one comes in August, and it tells you what the county has valued your property at. It also tells you what the estimated amount of taxes for that year are going to be by each of the taxing entities. And then it kind of tells you what your tax bill will be. It tells you if any of those entities are planning to have a tax increase, and then you can go to a meeting to talk about that. It also tells you if any of the taxing entities had an increase since last year. And then you can go to the county, you can appeal your tax valuation, because the county is so big. I mean, geographically, a square mile, the county can't get to every house to do an evaluation every year. And so they're on like a 5-year cycle where only every 5 years they come out and look at your property from a distance, obviously from the street, and kind of determine what that valuation should be. The other 4 years is just kind of an elevation and a guess of somebody in the office is just kind of putting a percent multiplier onto your property from the previous year. And so typically it'll go up a small amount every year. And then on that 5th year that they come and look at your property, those are the ones that you really see the huge increase of sizable amount that really shocks people of, my taxes went up X amount or my property value went up X amount. And that's because they came out and looked at the property. So yeah, that's the form that you get. And then in November, you get the actual tax bill after everything's been finalized.
And Trent, if I could just stop you here before we get to this last August. Once the agency was told by the state that they cannot raise our taxes, they then started another truth in taxation meeting last September where they proposed 104% tax rate hike in both agencies. So in each, and they did all the truth in taxation and it went through.
So a guy got fired, they hired him back, and then they got told they can't tax, and they did it again. You know what? Here's the thing. You remember, did you guys know what the original, verbiage of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was?
Go on.
It was life, liberty, and property.
Property, right.
Isn't it great that we get to rent our houses from the government?
Right. We never own it. Well, and this is what I was trying to get to is now here we are. We've just got these cards in the mail. And I mean, mine is astronomical. What they think my house is worth was insane. If I put it on the market right now, I'd never get that out of it. But this is what they want me to pay. And then I get the truth in taxation meetings coming up and they want to raise it again, correct? And do they want another 100%?
Yeah, let's take just a quick step back. And
okay.
What they approved last year was an increase from 0.000685 per special service district, the recreation and greenbelt districts.
So break that down. What does that mean? 0.00.
So maybe it'd be easier. Jared, were you able to pull up my slides that I sent to you?
Let me have a look and see. They haven't showed up yet.
Oh, okay. I sent those a while ago.
Yeah, he sent them a while ago.
Maybe we don't have them. But so here's how it works. Is that Oh, good.
Just opening it.
Yeah, just keep talking.
Yeah, so when I mentioned earlier that the county comes out and values your house, you actually, if your house is your primary residence, meaning you're living in there more than half the year, you can take a what's called a homestead exemption that the state offers, and you only have to pay 55% of the value, or what the county values your house at. You only have to pay taxes on 55% of that value. Now, if you have a second home, or the one you're living in Stansbury is a second home, then you do have to pay the 100%. But it is broken down so that if your primary residence, you do get a homestead exemption where you only have to pay 55% of the value. And so
But
the
that
county
still
value
hurts someone like me when they make my value at almost $1 million. That 50% is still a killer. It's like, what? And so that's what I'm wondering. Like, how are they evaluating my house at so much money? And yet my neighbor just, if they sell their house, they're not selling for $1 million. Are they going on Zillow and just looking at, like, how are they deciding to nearly double the value of my home right before tax time?
Yeah, actually what they do is they take what they consider to be fair market value on December 31st. And then that is what we're paying taxes on now is what the county valued our home on December 31st, 2023. And then we're paying taxes based on last year's valuation. So you're always paying taxes, property taxes 1 year in arrears. So this is the document that everybody gets. And I don't know if it's reversed on everybody else's screen or the one I'm looking at. Is it possible, Tony, to flip that or to do a mirror image? Or do you guys see okay?
I can see. I don't know if the viewer can see it, and maybe we could zoom in. If you can't
Maybe
flip it.
I might have mine flipped, so it's okay. I've got them here. But what Jared had up was the property tax statement, and they value your land, they value your home, and then they have like a market value. Okay, perfect. That's what I'm seeing. So this is what the statement looks like. This is mine. I redacted personal information off of this, but so as you can see, my market value is $146,000 for the land and the primary building. The house itself is $344,720, and then together, it's $500 and whatever. And then next to that is the taxable value, and that's the 55% that they're actually taxing me on. And so 55% of $146,000 on the land is $80,300, and then you can do the math there on the primary building. It's there at $189. So this is what the whole thing looks like. And then if you want to go to the next page, Jared.
Did they send this to you in the mail just like this?
Yes. This is exactly. Yes. And this is the one that comes in November for what you're going to pay.
Because we know the fire district went up this year also, or last year.
Yes, it did. And that's the one that comes in August that tells you what it was last year, what it is proposed, and then if the proposed increases are accepted, this is what your new rate's going to be. If none of them are accepted, this is what your rate's going to be. And so that's how they do that. And you can go ahead and scroll down to that next one. Perfect. Actually, go up. I jumped ahead. Actually, you can stay right here. Sorry, stay right here. I went over that other portion that I was on. So this section here is I've highlighted what each of the tax entities are charging, what each one of them are and what the rates are and what that means. So you take the tax rate and you multiply it times the total taxable value, and that's where you get the $15.38 from the Stansbury Park Improvement District. Now that's who does your water service and your sewer. And so then the county has a general tax that everybody pays. Then there's a basic levy for the school district. And that very well, that's the small one from the school district. And then there's mosquito.
There's a few.
Yeah, there's a few. And then mosquito abatement, that's so for the county to take care of mosquitoes, which in my honest opinion doesn't do a very good job based on the fact that I have to pay for additional services to get rid of my mosquitoes at my place.
Same. Yep, same.
And then Stansbury Greenbelt and Recreation, we'll talk more about that. North Tooele Fire District, that's the fire district service for northeastern part of Tooele County. And then there's the charter school levy. And if you look at that, actually compared to what the school district levy is, it's a minute amount of money. And I know that some of us have children that attend charter schools or have attended charter schools out here. And
in fact, your wife teaches at a charter school out here, and it's my favorite school on the planet.
She does. And the charter schools get money from the state. But look at what county-wise, what the county is collecting to provide for our charter schools in the county.
$24, right? Am I reading that right?
$24 compared to the school levy right above it. It's $2,000. So
it's almost half of the entire bill is that school levy, and your kid's in a charter school that's getting $24. And I think it's a better education.
And they're getting money from the state as well, but so is the school district,
right?
Per student. Anyway, it's all broken out there of where the money's going, and then at the end of the day, my taxes are $4,200. By the way, which is $1,000 more than last year. Jerry, you can go ahead and scroll down to the next part, even the entire next page. Perfect. Keep scrolling. So I went through all these. Go ahead and keep scrolling, and then keep scrolling to this next part right here. Go back up. What I wanted to talk about was keep going up. Was the municipal type services right here. Perfect. So municipal type services, these are the services that the county provides to residents of unincorporated Tooele County. And so that would be Stansbury Park, that would be Lincoln. I believe it's a couple other very small.
Lincoln, Pine Canyon, Erda.
And then out
Used to be
sticks
Erda.
where
Used to be Erda, used to be Lake Point. Both of those have incorporated. So basically, Stansbury Park is probably like 95% of unincorporated Tooele County, both probably in size and in population and in collected property tax revenue.
Brent, is this municipal? Is this for snow removal and street repair and things like that?
So this is going to be your snow removal, your street repair, and your police.
And police.
The county police, sheriffs.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess where I'm going with this particular one is that every property in unincorporated Tooele County pays this amount, but Stansbury Park is like 95% of the population of unincorporated Tooele County. And so we're paying for all of the services, the police force, the county sheriff, the roads and repair and snowplow of all of the other unincorporated areas that are all spread out all throughout the county. And so that's things that once a city is incorporated, then that city is responsible for covering. Now, interestingly enough, both IRTA and Lake Point have contracted with Tooele County for their police force and for their roads, and they're not doing it themselves.
Now, there are places like out in the sticks, like I mentioned, where you've got great big businesses that are paying this tax also, but aren't using the services. They clear their own snow, they fix their own roads, like Energy Solutions, I think, and MagCorp, Cargill, places like that that are in unincorporated.
We don't fix. I work at Cargill. We don't fix the road that leads to it. The old Drewby Road.
That's a county road, right?
Yeah, that's a county road. So the county manages, and that goes out to MagCorp. Now, anything within our property line, we do fix. But then again, also within that property line, we control traffic management, who can drive, and things like that. So,
and they don't use like police services very often at all. Maybe emergency services.
I don't know. The only time we've had to have, I think, any kind of sheriffs out there was when we had a gentleman pass away out on our ponds roads.
So, Trent, what does it look like in IRTA right now on their tax? What does their tax bill look like? We've got this 287 for municipal type services. What does it look like in IRTA or Lake Point right now? What does their number look like?
I don't have that right here in front of me, but I can pull that up as we start to talk. I can tell you that the tax rate is, let's put it this way. You could go live in Park City and your tax rate would be cheaper than it is living in Stansbury Park. Now you're going to pay more because you're going to be in a multi-million-dollar home in Park City, but your tax rate is lower than it is in Stansbury Park.
Doesn't Park City have more industry too that relieves some of the residential taxes?
They do. They do. And I can talk to potential tax revenue off of business in just a moment. But I wanted to, if I could, just kind of finish this up and.
Yeah, sorry.
No. I go ahead and scroll to the next one because this is where we get to the Stansbury Service Agency. Go ahead and scroll and do that whole big. Well, there we go, right there. So this is the amount. The tax rate is 0.001400, and by Utah code, that's the highest amount that the service agency can actually tax at.
And that's what they asked for last year, to go to the very highest, correct?
They asked for it in 23 to be applied to 24 taxes. So this is the first year that we're seeing it, and then they've asked to maintain it at this rate this year for 25, and then again for 26. Actually, potentially even with a cost of living increase of a little bit. And so, as you can see, I've added in what the 23 rates were. So the 23 rates were 0.000685. And so that's a pretty sizable, significant increase of.
In both. They went full bore in both districts.
Yes. And even though it's both districts, and it represents 104% increase by having an increase in both, it doesn't make it a 208% increase. It's still 104% increase, but it's a significant increase. I apologize for putting a dollar sign in my percent increase section, but it was a 95.81% increase dollars, year over year, on my personal, and increase of $385, which I will admit, and this is probably something the service agency is saying, that it's a very small percent, and it's not a lot of dollars in the grand scheme of things when you compare what you're paying to the school district, where just about half of my taxes are going to the school district.
Right.
And so this increase of $385, which is now $755 is what I'm going to be paying to the service district. It's a minimal amount compared to the whole picture, but it's the concept of going from 000685 up to 0014 and wanting to do that for 3 years. It is a significant increase.
That is some people's mortgage payment. That's an extra mortgage payment or a few months of groceries for some people.
Yeah, and here's the real interesting thing that I haven't even talked about that some people may know about and some may not, was the county last year messed up the calculation on our property taxes. And that may or may not be something people are aware of. And so in order to make up that difference, they've had to increase our taxes even more. And that was at the county level. So the school districts, we had to pay more. The municipal fees, we had to pay more. And if anybody else was like me, because those taxes actually went, your tax bill was probably lower last year than it was the previous year. And that was because the mix up with the county. Well, I got a check from the mortgage company because they took out more on my escrow during the year of 23 and partly into 24 because my taxes were lower. So I got $1,000 back in like May of this year. Well, the problem is now my taxes are, and then they changed my escrow amount to reflect that. And so they started collecting less. Well, now this year for 24, my taxes are $1,000 more than they were last year. And so it's messed up my escrow again. And so people, if you are not accruing for an additional amount to your escrow next year, your mortgage company is going to come back and say, you're $1,000 in the hole. We can either add that to your monthly payment or you can pay it now. But people who don't plan for it are going to get hit with a huge increase in their escrow to cover the mix up plus the tax increase. And so people need to understand and start planning for that. I've already, in my monthly budget, set aside additional amounts each month so that when the mortgage company comes to me next year to say, hey, you're in the arrears in your escrow, you owe us $1,000, $1,200, $1,500, I'll have most of that available. But I don't know that a lot of people want to do
you
that.
have dived into this, and you're right. Who can do this? I'm thinking of my parents right now, and living on a fixed income. They did everything right. They've saved, they had investments in a 401k, and they bought their home. They owed nothing on their home, and now they're just paying property tax. And my heavens, if they're not paying this close attention, that $1,000 could hurt them badly.
Yeah, because the total property tax bill is probably for a year is probably more than what some of these retired folks are getting from Social Security in a month. And so when you take out an entire month's worth of income from the year, it's going to be pretty significant on anything.
And at what risk? They risk losing their home that they own outright. That's theft. This is theft.
Yep. I'm just trying to figure out, like in my instance, I'm having to, I can't even find it here on my budget, but as far as my escrow, oh, here it is, $92 a month is what I'm setting aside. So it's going to be $1,200 roughly that I'm having to set aside to cover up for this, both the increases and for the mix up by the county that's going to hit the escrow next year.
Now, what was the mix up with the school board also?
Well,
we
that's part of it. Oh no, oh boy, you're so the school district used to have an online school, and they were getting money from the state
Right.
to cover the students who were enrolled into this online program. Well, they decided to no longer have that program in school year 23-24. 24-25 that we're in right now. And so Park City, I believe, or it was another school district, did the same thing. And the state didn't catch on to it and did not reduce their funding by the number of students that this online schooling did. And so Tooele School District kind of thought, oh, hey, if Park City got away with it, maybe we can get away with this. And now it's Summit County School District.
Yeah, Summit.
Yeah, and so
was it Summit or was it? Might have been. I can't remember.
I can't remember either. I think it was Summit, but Tooele District thought, oh, well, we'll do the same thing. We'll get rid of this, and we'll get to keep the money that we were getting for these students that were no longer part of our district.
Unbelievable.
And so they built their budget around the fact that they were going to have this money. And then the state caught on and said, no. You don't get to have that amount of money or get that money still when you're not servicing those students. And
That's
so
like waking up in the morning and there's $10,000 in your bank account that you didn't put there, and then going, oh, winner, chicken dinner, I'm going to go buy some stuff. When you're stealing it at that point.
And they budgeted for it, knowing that they may or may not, I don't know what was in their minds, but how do you get rid of that many students and think that you're still going to get the funding for the students you no longer have? I know that at the charter school that my wife teaches at, the state comes out and physically comes into every classroom and counts the students. And that's how that school gets their money, is they do a physical inventory of students every year. And why the school district thought they could get away with losing, and it was a huge number of students. My understanding is it was either close to 1,000 or over 1,000 students that were doing this online program that they were getting the money for, that they were no longer servicing those students and thought they could keep them.
And then when the people find out, now the people take a deep dive into the expenses of the school district and start seeing what administrators are getting paid and how all this money is just being taken. And they were going to raise taxes again and had their truth in taxation meeting set. And as you probably recall, I know all of us were planning on being there. And they ended up going, this is going to be terrible. We're just going to eat it. Right?
They did. And thank goodness that several people on the school board realized that they were playing with people's livelihoods and ability to keep their homes, to put food on the table. We're in a bad situation with the economy as it is, and they're just adding to it. All of these taxing entities that keep asking for it, it's devastating to some people. Cost of living increases with employers. I've only been getting about 3% for the last couple of years, and the cost of living was 9 plus.
And some of us have gotten none.
Exactly.
And so negative.
It's difficult. And so, we're better off. Matter of fact, I will flat out say that even getting increases over the last 4 years, I am worse off now than I was 4 years ago because of the inflation, because of the tax increases, and I'm making more money. It's sad.
Well, when your grocery bills go up 30% here and your gas bill goes up and the percentages and these numbers have just come out when the real numbers, because the government's been telling us inflation's not that bad. We inherited this inflation, and you're going, I see exactly what goes in and out of my account. I know that groceries, I can get out of the grocery store $150. I have a full cart and I don't need to go back next week for a small family of 4. But then you turn around year after year and it's getting less and less and less. And not only that, there's less food in the bag that you're buying. And we're not stupid. We're not stupid. And yet we're told so many times that this is just natural. This is what's happening. And the truth is, like, the people who are on a fixed income, who can't walk into their boss and go, you know what, I need a raise. I'm willing to put in more time, more hours, give me more to do to earn it, but I can't keep up. The people who are veterans, who are retired, who have paid off their homes, who don't have children in school any longer, who are just looking to downsize because the interest rates are so high, they can't even do that. And yet, if they miss this small bill, that's a small bill to you or I who can maybe put in more hours to earn it, these folks could lose their home. Because the government can make mistakes and get away with it, but not you. This is insane.
Well, it's going to cause, say you're a retiree. It's not like you can go pick up a part-time job and that won't affect your retirement. So
yeah,
well, you got to work under the table. I don't know, maybe.
The cost of living increase for Social Security for 2025 is 2.5%.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still well above that. It's come down significantly from where we were at, but it's still well above. And so retirees, it's going to be pinching their pockets even more so next year, because they're not going to be able to keep up with what's going on.
I know there's people out there going into debt, credit card debt, to afford groceries. And that's just insane. I know so many families have not taken a vacation in 2 years, in 3 years. They can't imagine not even a weekend camping trip. They just can't afford it because they need to be at work trying to earn money. And when you said that the Stansbury Service Agency did a cost of living increase or wants one, they laid off half their employees because we didn't want to do the tax hike. It was in our face that we're going to lay off all these people because you guys don't want to pay more taxes. And I was thinking, you guys are so slimy. When we sat through that 2% taxation meeting, 100 people stood up offering to mow lawns, to water, to clean up trash, to watch the lake or when people are there. So many of our community stood up, and especially retired folks from our community, they stood up willing to do it for free to avoid having to raise taxes. And what did they do? They got mad at us. They didn't get their taxes that they wanted, so they laid off half the staff. Mind you, this is what I also can't get my head around, Trent. Maybe you can explain it. The insurance covered the $1 million that was embezzled, which would have put an extra $1 million in their budget. Where did that go? For them to ask for 104% in each district that same year, where did that go? I've asked that question. I've never gotten an answer.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, and I've taken a dive into their budgets, at least the public ones that they share, and from what I can tell, the $1 million was added into the budget, but here's how that tax rate works. We talked about it was 0.00685, and then it went to 0.00140. What happens is every year your tax rate actually kind of goes down. And so for the last number of years, the service agency has done nothing. They could have taken little bits here and there, but they did nothing for a number of years. This is very similar to Tooele City, probably 5-7 years ago, when they hadn't done any increases. And
in
then
26 years.
yeah, they had a huge increase to cover the situation. And that's not on me, the citizen, for letting them know, hey, did you know that if you don't do anything, your tax rate actually decreases over time? It actually, they should have been going in for small incremental changes year over year over year, which I would have much preferred, rather than just to get beat over the head with the bat with a almost 100% increase year over year. And I even in one of the meetings requested that maybe they do a 3-year ramp up. Take a 33% one year, 33% the next, and what the agency is saying is that everything in the community is in such disarray that everything has to be fixed now. And they've got priorities. I've seen their priority list, and I can understand that some of that needs to be done. But
some of it,
exactly, and it doesn't all need to be done in 2025. That they are saying everything that does. One thing that they wanted to do for 2025 that actually ended up coming off was they wanted to add in a grill at the pro shop at the golf course, and it was going to cost about $500,000 is what they had budgeted for that. And I was thinking to myself, they are mad crazy.
Yeah.
The payoff on a grill, if there's not a minimum 24-month payback or a return on an investment, they shouldn't be doing anything. And like I said, luckily they did pay that back, they took it off the budget. Holly, I'll let you go ahead and introduce Heather, who just
well, and
on.
I'm on that same note. I've been in meetings before with Heather, and I've asked them for a moratorium to stop with new projects. Let's cover the stuff that is an immediate emergency now, but we don't need this and this and this. We need to just focus on getting the park to where it looks good and the walkways are clear, the lake is healthy. I mean, these are things we've been talking about for decades. And still, they've got a list this long. And how many of that is wants? How many of that is needs? And why does it have to all be done next year? And Heather, welcome to the show. And you've been on before, usually called in. Thank you so much for being here tonight. This is Heather Lester. She is somebody that tell us about yourself. And I know Heather because she's a neighbor in a sense in the park, just like Trent, but also you are a diehard meeting attender. I think Trent and I both learned so much from what you provide from many of these meetings that you know a ton about the day-to-day and what they're doing inside the agency from each meeting. And I learn a lot from you. So please talk about yourself a little bit.
Certainly. Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I had some sound issues, so I kind of teetered in the background a bit. No, I appreciate you letting me join. Always willing to acknowledge the smarter people in the room. I just show up and do the things and probably irritate some folks, and I'm usually a little extra loud. So that's kind of the basics. I mean, we're not over. We haven't lived here. It's not even been 5 years yet. So we kind of came in, looked at different things, kind of just started out with what's happening, and then we thought, oh man, that really smells. So if it smells, you go find out why it smells. And not to put it on a tacky spin, but it just really became a thing where we were just being present. And then the more we became present, the more it became weird, and the more it became harder. And then we just didn't understand. So we started asking questions. Well, generally speaking, people don't like it when you ask questions, especially, we're not newbies, but we're also not lifelongers either. So I guess I've been in the legal field for a really, really long time. I know enough to know enough. And I also know when to kind of stand down, when to step aside. So truth and taxation, of course, that's where my pivot came in, to where you look at the legals, you look at the requirements, you look at the auditor's office, you do the things, and you never really presume, or you never really hope that people are doing things wrong or egregiously, or even spitefully. But then
Right.
here comes the needs and the wants, right? So then we have to do this, we have to do this, and we can't. And my basic first question, even a couple of years ago, was, why are you doing it all right now? It didn't take 2 minutes to get into this mess, and why are we trying to fix it in the next 3 minutes? So that was my biggest problem is, and of course, probably my biggest, probably what will be put on my headstone when I die is needs versus wants. Like, why do we have to have all of the wants? You can't please everybody, no matter if you give everyone what they want. So, I mean, you nailed it when you said that, Holly, as far as just having a laundry list full of things. Well, I'm a mom of a teenager. So if that person, my teenager, decides to put every single thing he wants on a Christmas list, he's not going to get it. And so by default, they can't put all the things on their list that they want without some sort of process or plan or budget, if you will. And I think Trent can agree that we've hard fought the battle of trying to figure out what the budget is. I've seen more proposed budgets than I've seen finalized budgets. And even going into the truth and taxation, that's why we had the big meeting last year when they did get it passed for that, 104 per entity. We just kind of asked, like, the proposed budget. How did we get here? Where's the insurance money? How is that allocated? So
Right.
again, 100 lists of questions. So our, big list of questions versus your list of wants has never mirrored, even as of even a couple days ago in the last meeting. So I kind of took off on that. I didn't know how much you wanted to go into my personal thing. I just find myself in more of a community advocate kind of liaison perspective, because I ask the questions, but I always know the people that can nail it down. Trent brings in the math. He brings in the logistics. He brings in all of the stuff. And Holly, and even, Chad Saunders is really active in all of the question asking. We just need to get more people to ask the questions and just be present, because even if you don't get the answers, you bring the same questions back. And I think that's where we all falter, is nobody's asking repeatedly in consistency on why it smells. And that's
But-
kind of where my position is.
Heather, I've seen you in meetings
Mhm.
ask these questions, and I know you're trying I know what you're trying to say, because what you're trying to say, I think, is that I don't think you guys have intentionally ignored us, intentionally mismanaged funds. But when it keeps happening,
Mhm.
and I've seen you ask questions and you're blown off, or the question doesn't get answered, that's what really grinds my gears, because they work for us. You're well versed in the knowledge of all of what's happening in this. We all are. We've all been watching this. Some of us just with our jaw on the floor, and we've
Yeah.
gotten people to show up. We've gotten people to engage, because that was one of their things. Well, we need people to engage so we know what they want and they can help us with this list. We've done everything we can do. And then you get up there and ask a question, and it's like you've just pissed everybody off.
Well, I think there's a knack for that. And there's other people that, tend to grind the gears as well. But I guess my biggest thing is, logically, psychologically speaking, when people are doing the things, whether it's needed or not needed, there's probably better words than that. If they know that people aren't going to consistently show up and consistently ask the questions, I'm not saying that those words have been said, but they know consistently that there's not going to be a long-term accountability. And unfortunately, that's obvious, right? So when I do ask the questions, I'm not just asking questions, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that maybe on here or maybe listen later, I'm not asking just my questions or me and my husband's questions as far as like, this is wild. I'm not just asking, questions for Trent when he can't be there, you or Chad, or just a little niche group that we have where we're like, these questions obviously never got answered. But the thing that I get all the time, weekly, especially after a meeting, private messages, DMs, Facebook messages, instant messenger, just those things are from people that don't want to come or can't come or don't dare come because they see the shutdown, even of little old me asking questions. They message me consistently. So these questions are not, again, mine. These are people that are seeing same things, and we're all on the same page. But but we're not getting the questions answered. So, I mean, it really comes down to, do we need to do all of the things? And I think there's a people pleasing part of being in a service agency for a community that has a lot of nice things. But at the same time, when you're buried eyelid deep, sometimes it's not the accountability of the people to just, say their needs or their want is more important than someone else's. And I really think that's where we've kind of went askew.
I agree. And I get a lot of questions from my neighbors as well. I've had my own battles with the agency, and I feel like they're trying. But I mean, we've elected them to do a job, and sometimes we've elected the same people to keep their job, even after the whole embezzlement thing.
Yeah.
Because we believe they're trying to do what's best for the community. And I adore, I mean, I hate to say it because I get so angry, but there's a few people on that board that I just think are phenomenal people. And I think they do have the best interest of the park in mind, the ones I know personally, and they're kind and all of that. But eventually your intent matters. And if you can't do the job, you need to tell the people you represent that you are in over your head. And it's like they're not willing to do that. At least I'm not seeing that. Maybe you guys are seeing it, but I haven't seen that.
Well, I mean, it's a passing of the buck, right? Like you have to admit that there's errors. And again, acknowledging all the things that Trent talks about too, and even in his information on the actual truth in taxation a couple weeks ago. I mean, he came up with solutions. A lot of people, not just in our little small circle here, but are asking questions like, why don't you do this? Why don't you sell that? Why do we need this now? What about in 2 years? Because my biggest thing is, once you tax, it's kind of like, I work a lot in housing. So it's like when housing prices go up and rents go up, do you ever think they're actually going to come down? Why would you? You have a revenue stream, right? So again, with the proposal to sell the things or evaluate the things or rethink some things, it's really the mentality. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but this is the way we're doing it. Just let it go, right? And so I don't know what that means, but if I'm raising the rents well past fair market value as far as a housing crisis goes, I'm going to come back to that and say, well, they're paying it, so why would I lessen it? So can we say that the tax increase for 2024, that's for 2023, that's hitting us now, the tax increase that's coming next year, and then this 3-year plan, I can truly sit here and tell you that I don't know if it's going to stop in the following year and the following year, because we're paying it and people can't sustain. That was my biggest soapbox that I stood on last year, was the seniors, the fixed income folks, the people that might take advantage of like a circuit breaker program if they know how to do it or can even qualify for it, because it's well beyond, the normal people's AMI. It's really like very, very strict and low. You might get a small deduction or circuit breaker, but veterans, our seniors, that was initially why I got super mad. But again, it went up again, and I just have asked the question, is there going to be some sort of a hiatus or maybe a plateau, if you will, for lack of a better word? And that is never answered, because again, on a business perspective, why would you ever lessen if people are doing?
That's
maybe
so
Trent
true.
can speak to that too. I don't know.
And Trent can, because how many times, Trent, there was a mistake last time your taxes went down. That was by a mistake. How many times do they go, oh, you know what? We're doing so great. Everybody, taxes are going down. That is so rare. It's rare. So when it happens, you're like, wow, my government is actually working smart and they're working on my behalf, right? But then you find out it's a mistake. And with mistakes come expensive fixes. So Trent, what do you think? Are we going to plateau? Are they just going to keep asking with the list they have of to do on their list? How much of that is realistic? How much of that are they going to try to accomplish? And are they going to try to hurry and do it before they lose their seats in the next election? And then they just hire each other back?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know one thing, and that is that last year they told us that they were going to maintain the tax rate at 0014 for 3 years, which is the maximum that they can do. I have a feeling that if they were able to sustain it or to keep it at that rate for more than 3 years, they would do it. They also, apparently they also want to add in this cost of living increase for 25 and then again in 26, which I don't know how they're going to do, because if the maximum tax rate is 0.0014, and they want to do a COLA adjustment, I don't know how they're going to do that. And as far as the list of things to do, I mean, there's lots of things on that list, and I'm sure that they all need to be done. I don't know that they all need to be done now. Those who are in the community remember 3 years ago that we used to have a nice dock on the lake, and then there were some people from outside of the community that came in and horseblade on it, and it broke it, and so it had to be removed. They had in the budget last year, the year before, a replacement. They've had the replacement sitting in storage for months and months. I heard that they were going to install that this year. Still hasn't been installed. And then I also just saw something from the last meeting that they wanted to make it a bigger dock. Why are we trying to spend more money instead of just using the equipment that we've already bought? You've already got the equipment, install it. The other thing is that from the last meeting, and Heather can probably talk a little bit more about this, was they actually had a line item on the agenda that they wanted to acquire more property and turn it in. I don't know what they're going to turn it into. There are parcels, and I made a point, not this last week, but the week before, and they had the Truth in Taxation meeting, where I identified 3 parcels in the community that I believed that Stansbury Service Agency owned. One of them they don't. I was misinformed. I should have done my research a little bit better. But the property over off of Pole Canyon Road and Village Boulevard, that at one point in time was going to be a rec center. I thought that had been given to the agency by Ivory Homes. Come to find out that did not happen. And
Ivory
so
still owns it, though.
Ivory still owns that. But I presented a couple of options that they could do to sell off these properties to help offset and to subsidize the taxes so that it's not all on the citizens. And now they want to buy more property. One of the properties I had was some land. You can see it off of Pole Canyon Road. It's just east of Bonneville Academy. That when my wife and I were originally looking out here, when they opened up Schooner Lane, there was a park, some land right there for a park. That was 20 years ago. It was 20 years ago. That park has still not been developed yet.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to be using impact fees that the builder pays to the agency. Why are they not building this park that sat for 20 years, and they're putting restrooms up in areas, and they're carving out an area for the snow hill over by the amphitheater, and they're putting in bathrooms and trying to do a parking lot over there. Let's finish some stuff that you've promised the community 20 years ago. People have been sledding on that hill for however many years, and they say it's a safety concern. I myself am not aware of anybody that's had any accidents or health issues because there's not a parking lot on the sledding hill. I do know that people who have lived on Schooner Lane are waiting for their park that was promised 20 years ago.
Let's talk about the development one more time by that sledding hill. If you remember, that property was zoned commercial, and when the owner sold it, the developer went in and fought with the county to make it residential, which had a big problem, and donated the sledding hill back to the agency in good faith. Because so many people were upset that it was taking the sledding hill, he did that. He made them purchasable and not renters. We didn't want rentals right there for fear that it would hurt our property value. So all of that. Where's the property? Where are they putting property out that is deemed commercial so that we can bring businesses in here? And why aren't they thinking like, we're growing, we're going to be a city someday. Let's be a smart city. Let's make sense here. Why are we? I mean, I know we were always deemed to be one of the biggest green spaces developments ever. I mean, that was 40, 50 years ago. That was the plan. Stansbury Park was going to be the biggest green space and outdoor living. Why are we encouraging tourism by putting in a bigger, what is it called? Pier or whatever? Let's make it bigger, bolder for everyone to use. Why aren't we charging for people to come into the park? Why are we making nothing? And yet they're using and abusing what we pay for as taxpayers. Why don't we charge for parking?
They talked about that. They had some presentations on, charging for parking different. I think it was Diamond. Maybe, don't beat me up for that one. I'm thinking that's who it was. They did a couple presentations on parking, and then they did some DNR stuff for the lake, and they're working on something with the bridge. And then of course the amphitheater, and there was some, pardon me for, it was in this last meeting, there was somebody that was potentially donating land back to the agency, another parcel of something. I apologize for not being specific, but again, I guess my broken recordness, and that's a word, I make up words as I go, but my broken record spiel is still at the same time. They get complaints all the time. I get it. Everybody gets complaints. The county gets complaints. Cities that are cities get complaints. But again, appeasing all of the complaints, if it was, and don't get me wrong, there's been more transparency. I can acknowledge that. There's been more accountability. There's a lot more ability to answer questions that were just like questions that we all should know. Like, I just take it back to the ABCs. Like, these are the things, and then we can properly ask educated questions in case repeating and recycling all the time, because that's what happens a lot when somebody gets a notice in the mail. Everybody loses their mind.
Right.
And so if we just knew the basics, but again, even with the accountability, and then of course we were talking about transparency, it is still, and it will be unless we fix it and actually just say, these things are what's happening, not the laundry list, but these are the absolute doables. Like, we have to have a staff to make the grass green. We have to do the basics. And I think needs and wants is here. And then you have basics that has to fit in that pile somewhere, because the basics may be getting overlooked, because when you have to appease these things, like, we could definitely do the park. People paid for the park. But at the same time, we also have a pool that some people use, some people don't. But that was my biggest thing last year. Close the pool. You don't have to close the pool forever. Just take that off the list of things that you're going to spend money on.
Put a moratorium on these large, expensive items.
Yes.
The golf course.
The golden word. Yeah, the golden word is moratorium.
The golf course was the way that the money was coming in. It used to be a beautiful golf course. People spent so much money to live near it, to live by it, the lake as well. And they want to fix the golf course, but do they though? I mean, here they're talking about adding a grill to the golf course. Why would you add a grill when you can't even add customers right now? Is the grill going to drive people from around the mountain to come golf at our golf course? And why haven't we thought about selling it to a private business, somebody private who would take that golf course and make it the best it can possibly be, because profit matters to small business.
Well, and they did. I mean, they were looking at those things. And again, the dialogue as far as the meeting dates, they've talked about it. They looked into it. They decided that they would keep it because the revenue was in the green. And there's probably a lot of other reasons that they aren't acknowledging in the meetings. I'm specifically going with what they're saying in the meetings.
Yeah.
But again, when it comes down to, they have the stock that they proposed. And so I didn't even know that they had another doc sitting somewhere doing something. But, even replacing what was there, let alone some amazingly large fishing slash swimming platform. I mean,
But
it was beautiful, but at the same time, if we're dying over here trying to figure out how to pay for the taxes, how are people going to enjoy the things that they so
it's not our people
crucially
though
want?
that are enjoying
Exactly.
it. And this is the problem. If you don't have somebody there in a security type fashion, this is
Yeah.
what we learned that day when the dock was getting destroyed. We could call police all day long. The police could respond, but until they had either a member of the agency or security there to trespass these people, they couldn't do anything. It's a public lake. And so, wait a minute, why don't we have security scheduled on a Saturday, Sunday when all these people are flooding in? But in the meantime, that same security is maybe charging $5 for parking, something to help us maintain the lake, to clean it up, to make it look its best. This has been this is basic, I think, business 101.
Yeah.
You can't be throwing all the money out and yet we're not even the ones using the park. We should be making some profit there to help ease our burden.
And I think a lot of people are mad, and just the messages that I've got, Trent's probably got a whole bunch too, especially with the incorporation topics. But the thing is people are really, really mad about certain things. And so does mad make things happen, or is it just the appeasing? Because again, we're spreading this many dollars thinly over whatever. So then we, by default, the common logic is ask for more dollars. And then
Right.
when there's more dollars, then it's still going to be more wants, still going to be more asks. And then we're going to have to keep asking for more dollars. And so again, spending wisely, we're all having this. This was one of the unfavorable comments that I've made, but we're all budgeting collectively, especially to pay these taxes. So we're budgeting on what we absolutely have to do. We're asking the same. And I guess that's never a favorite topic, because it's people get discouraged, and just consensus of people reaching out to me is, why say anything, because it's not going to matter anyways.
You're
And
right.
so people have said, hey, focus groups. So if they don't feel comfortable coming to the meeting, have a focus group. Will people come to them? I don't know. Advisory committees or some other committee. There's the lack of participation because of the lack of I don't know. I actually don't know the answer
Engagement
to that.
on the
Thank you.
agency's part, I think,
Yeah.
because we did
I don't know
start
the answer.
after the embezzlement issue. We fought and fought to have a community overwatch, a
Mhm.
board that was community members who owned businesses who could maybe assist the agency in doing checks and balances on something as basic as, I don't know, our tax dollars. And they could chime in. You know, how do you set up a bank account? How do you audit that? Why does the treasurer of this agency not notice almost $700 a day going missing for 2 years? We've got to fix that. And yet, Trent, you and I disagree on incorporation, but I could be swayed. But here's my biggest problem with it. I'm afraid that we haven't got it down here on this small agency scale. The representation and the people who do engage, and I know the agency, all of them are giving their time, their energy, they're getting bats swung at them constantly. They're not getting a lot of praise, and I'm guilty of it too. I need to remind myself these are citizens, volunteers, they're not making big bucks to do this job, and I appreciate that they do. But if we build a city here with the same people, I'm afraid we're going to get more of the same. When I have seen Heather ask questions politely, respectfully, over and over and get shot down, and I don't believe the main person that was doing it is on the board any longer. In just some of at least the person that was giving me so much problems, not there any longer. But when we as a people can't come together and actually expect them to answer our questions and to be absolutely transparent and to make sure these meetings are attainable for our elderly, for our retired folks, this should, I mean, if we're going to build anything, let's have them put in a simple camera system and better microphones so the people can sit at home on Wednesday and watch Mike Tyson fight while they're listening to the meeting or whatever. And they can engage through a chat. And then one of us volunteers to be the person who is giving that chat information to the board in real time. I mean, this is basic civics. We can do it at the county. We can do it in most other private meetings that we attend. COVID taught us that. But what I'm afraid of is this is the pool of people that are willing to step up, run a campaign, and then win, and then serve. What does a city look like when we're already in trouble as it is? I mean, I would rather dissolve the agency entirely back to the county and then start talking incorporation. Get out a feeler for where our properties are, where we can bring new business in, and we can focus on that, working with the chamber, see, how many people and where it's going to be located, and let's just fix these little problems. And then we start talking incorporation. I would be your biggest cheerleader for it. But I'm afraid if it falls on our rooftops and it gets run the way it's getting run, we are the butt of all of this.
I totally agree with you on that, Holly. Logistically, running the numbers, everything I've ran, I have spent
years,
too many hours diving into service agency budgets, revenue streams, on sales tax revenue streams, which, by the way, if we were incorporated in 2024, we would have probably seen about just under $5 million just in sales tax revenue from
on homes that are being built.
No, sales tax. So that's the tax you pay at Solberg's or
Gotcha.
any of the restaurants here locally, home businesses, Amazon, that type of revenue. I have no doubt that fundamentally we could be a city, but my concern is if this is what we have running the service agency, which would be running a budget significantly smaller than a city budget, and we have these problems, what is going to happen when there is significantly more money and more at stake? And if we're going to do it, it's got to be done right. We have to fix the issues we have now, and that's the reason why I've put incorporation on hold, because I can't stand behind something that I am really in favor of if I don't have a good feeling that it's going to be managed correctly and properly to the people of Stansbury Park.
And I feel exactly the same way. I would fight something tooth and nail because it's so much harder to take it away than it is to get it. And if you take it away because it's mismanaged, I mean, we could lose so much. We could lose so much. So I want to be fully behind it and fully support of it. And I was the face of no last time around. And a lot of it had to do with the borders, the boundaries that were set for us, and just not a lot of corporate tax options. And I'm glad to see more have come since then. But like you, I'll be the first person to stand up and say, hey guys, let's do this. I'm going to help. Here's what we're going to do. But yeah, it doesn't feel right because we're witnessing in real time what it could look like.
So, I mean, honestly, devil's advocate approach, and I'm layman's perspective, but honestly, how bad does this have to go? Or how many more years of this particular tax rate plus the COLAs, plus the things, does it have to go until it becomes like we don't have a choice option? Or it's going to suck regardless. We just have to figure out what's the less of the two evils. And again, I don't mean that ignorantly, but
No, I know.
think at some point it's like, it's kind of like you say no to the fact of incorporation. And I'm learning as I go. There's, again, smarter people in the room, every room that I'm in. There's always smarter people. But at the same time, the option to just get in there and give it hell, I just think the word rebranding always comes to mind. People use that when they reach out to me all the time. If we just knew what we need to know and then dealt with, right? That's kind of the incorporation option. It's like, well, these things have to be managed properly, but they're not managed properly now. So everybody's question, on just a average Joe at Solberg's, how would it be worse is the question, and it really is consistently asked. So again, I mean, Trent's, this is his lifelong endeavor, and he's brilliant when he goes through all the things, and every single time there's a question on the residence page, there I am tagging Trent at
Right.
nauseum. But nonetheless, it's still I just don't know. And people wanted to ask the question of how bad does it have to get before? And I just
think,
don't know.
Trent, you don't have any interest in being mayor of Stansbury Park, do you? I mean,
No.
Uh-oh, he didn't say no. So what do you
I'm
say?
going to lead us through the promised land. That is my goal, but I am not going to be Moses. I mean, I will be Moses to lead us there, but I'm not Jehovah. I guess is
that
what I'm
right
saying.
there, it just makes me see. I feel like your intentions are more pure. The last time around, I don't want to disrespect anyone, but I knew there was a hope that the people running it would be leading it, and that made me take a step back and be like, wait a minute. What kind of leader would you be with someone like you who've spent so much time researching this and trying to find the angles? And I mean, I'm the same way. I'm trying to find the angles. I've talked to the county. I've talked to people at Lake Point. Would it be beneficial for us to join forces and combine the city of Lake Point and Stansbury and share 36? That opens up all that place for businesses while we're still able to grow as a business or a residential. We're bringing in a huge tax benefit for them, and they could bring in a huge corporate tax benefit and keep their 1 acre lots and their 5 acre lots. I mean, there's so much. Even if we dissolved and went under the county already has Parks and Rec. The county already has green space maintenance. We're already paying the county. And do we start over?
But would the county allow you to keep the green spaces you do have, or would they say,
Yeah,
you're
there's leases on
overwhelmed?
these green spaces, I think, that are 100 years. Isn't that right, Trent?
I'm not quite positive on that, but two things to your questions or points regarding combining with Lake Point. Prior to IRTA Lake Point incorporating, there was a meeting between influential people of all three communities, and both IRTA and Lake Point did not want Stansbury Park included in either of their incorporations, or even a complete, all three communities being
I could
incorporated
understand
together.
that.
Because-
if you look at it, if you're an outsider and you're sitting there, oh, my taxes are going to go up for your green spaces,
Yeah.
just like everyone else in the county.
Numbers wise, we have
Everyone else in the county, if Stansbury Park was going to come in and our taxes would all go up to maintain your green spaces, everyone else in the county would be disrupted.
but we are also providing so much tax to the county because of the price of our homes, the taxes we're paying on our homes.
Grantsville's home prices are
they're-
more expensive than Stansbury Park's.
But not 10 years ago.
Sure,
I mean,
they
when
were
we were
10 years
doing
ago.
these studies.
2020 census, Stansbury Parks were higher. We're 4 years, almost 5 past that. But the other issue that they had, Jared, was they were afraid or concerned that Stansbury would be a voting block against Lake Point and IRTA.
Because of our
and
number of people.
because of the number of people. IRTA is so tiny and Lake Point is so tiny compared to us. And I mean, there's ways around that. Is you set your voting districts accordingly. But unfortunately, that road is behind us. Lake Point, they don't want our small lots. And I've met with the planning commission, and they're content with what they have. And, we're going to end up either being annexed, which we'll have to approve an annexation, or we're just going to continue to be the cash cow for the county. The other thing is it's my understanding that if the service agency were to dissolve, they are not interested in taking that over. That's my understanding is they don't want any part of it.
The county doesn't? Because
my understanding.
I've spoke with Jared Hamner, I've spoke with Scott Wardle, in just nothing concrete, more suggesting, what would it look like for us if we dissolved the agency? They would definitely want to have a meeting regarding the needs of the county, and they would definitely have to hire probably more for their staff they already have. But already we're the first area plowed with the snow plows. I mean, we are the county's child. We're the only child practically now that everyone's incorporated. So they're already focused on us a lot. But I didn't get an absolute no, they wouldn't want it. They did say there would have to be a majority on the board to vote to dissolve, which, if it came down to that, a few of us run for office for the exact same plan in mind. We educate our community and say, vote for me, and it's a vote to dissolve this, and you can save your money here on the agency side, and you may pay a little more to the county, but not up to that 140. I mean, they would still be bound by that same tax regulation, wouldn't they? The county?
Well, their overhead is such that they could absorb a large majority of what we're doing and only have to increase staffing, I think, minimally in order to take it over. The information I have is within the last 4 months. If yours was later than that, there may have been a change of heart. But my information is fairly recent.
Well, and here's where the problem comes: is the county doesn't want to step on the agency's toes. That's an independently, duly elected office, and I know that was the first thing that was brought up when I discussed this with them. And I think, did we talk about it on the show?
Yeah.
I think so. But that's the one thing. We're not going to step on the agency toes. Those people are elected. We respect the citizens of Stansbury Park. And whether you incorporate or not, it really has no effect on the county. We just kind of change things up. You guys would be using your money to run your city. And I went through this last time when people were saying, well, the county doesn't want to get rid of us and they're working against us. I had 10 meetings with the public in the last incorporation discussion where I invited everyone in the county, including the sheriff and all the 3 commissioners and, surveyors and auditors. And I'm asking them, according to the study for this incorporation study, tell me how accurate this is, so we get a real life glimpse. And the sheriff said, well, it's underbid on your sheriff's, your deputies. Right now you have X amount in the park at any given moment. If you were to contract more, it would cost more because you need it for 24 hours a day. And it's the little tiny details, just so the public was fully aware what we were dealing with. This is before IRTA and Lake Point, and the fear of annexation was always there. I don't know if IRTA would want to annex us or Lake Point under those same guides of, hey, we're good how we are. They don't want us in there, so it might not be a fear necessarily now, or is it?
My understanding is they don't. They may be intrigued on certain parts of Stansbury, and it's all got to be contiguous.
Right.
Which there's nothing right now that's contiguous with Lake Point or with Grantsville. We are contiguous with IRTA, Bates Canyon Road, being that boundary that's a common boundary. But there would have to be, between us and Lake Point, there's Rio Tinto property that would have to be, something would have to come up with. And that Rio Tinto and Adobe Rock Ranches development, that's a topic for another episode. But there's not any way for Lake Point to even annex us right now, or nor Grantsville. There's too many properties in between us and their property lines that would have to get resolved before any of that could even happen.
Well, and I think we just get down to the basics is why it's even a pressure right now. Why do the three of us, citizens of Stansbury, feel that this is even something we need to consider? What is wrong in the park right now and what is right? And how on earth are we going to fix it? Because the Stansbury Agency can't do it without us, without our input as citizens. They need citizens participating in all of that. But at the same time, it doesn't feel like they're trying too hard to get people there. I mean, I used to go film county council meetings on my own phone and go live just so people would participate. And Transcript Bolton picked it up and started doing it so with a tripod and got it all fancy. And the county went from there and decided to start filming it also, all their meetings filmed so the public could participate. I think that's a simple fix, even if it's one person going live for every meeting. That could happen as long as we have microphones on the agency themselves. We need people to participate, but we also need those line items, and they need to know what is a must and what is a wish, and they got to be prepared to cross these things off the list, because until this economy changes, our seniors and some of our single working families are not able to afford food or medicine. And we live in the most beautiful community in the county, in my opinion. I'm biased. Yeah. But here we are, and no one wants to hear us cry that we can't afford medicine because our houses are getting told that they're worth $550,000 and we're paying taxes on that value. But at the same time, what are we seeing? What are we seeing our dollars go to? Because there's a gun to our head collecting this money. And what is improving? What are we seeing ourselves? And what is the answer? And I think that if we could just encourage more people to sit down with this county, with this agency, and share not just the same people all the time, because we're looking like we're bullying them or whatever. And that's not our intention. I know you all personally. I know that isn't the intent. But they're in a hard place because they're not hearing from everyone. What can we do to get more people engaged?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know the answer. That's not why I'm chipping in right here. The thing is in the times where we've went meeting after meeting, week after week, month after month, and it's not, again, I don't think it's malicious. That's not ever what I'm saying. I've seen a lot of different progress. There's some new ideas. There's some new fresh faces, and that's great. My biggest problem is things flip. It's like, oh, well, no, we didn't say that. And so you find yourself plowing through 7 meetings ago that they did say that, or this wasn't a thing. And then all of a sudden it became, this is the hardest part that I have consistently, continuously going, including me and my husband. And I can't hold the accountability line when the game rules change and nobody knows about it. And I'm sure Trent's is frustrated as well, because it does. And it's like, okay, well, what about this? And then the doc wasn't on the last 4 meetings, and all of a sudden now that's a thing, and it's going to be like $1 million. And so then all of a sudden the amphitheater hasn't been brought up in 3 months. And then the bathrooms got forgot about, and the lake here, and then the mower that we're going to buy. And and it's just, I see thoroughly, because I even stopped going for maybe about a month or 2, just because work schedules and whatever. But I was so disconnected from even a couple meetings that I came back and I literally had to spend hours trying to retract on where the hell did this come from?
It's chaos.
And I'm there frequently. We're there, me or somebody from our household is representing at every meeting, give or take a few. And so we don't miss much. Quickly, I can see why people just say, I'm going to throw my hands up because I just cannot keep up. And it's unfortunate because if we're confused, they're doing it. Hopefully not maliciously, which I don't think so. But if there's so many asks, who's getting prioritized? Like, who drew the short straw? Who drew the long straw?
Is it incompetence?
I don't know. And that's my thing is, I'll never ignorantly sit here and say, oh, I think I could do better. No,
right.
Of course
that's how I feel. I don't think I could do better, but I don't understand where is the disconnect? Yeah. Because I know these people and I know they're Their
But sometimes
intention
you
is to improve the park.
Yeah.
And maybe
and
it's
some-
just too many balls in the air and they can't
and
figure
sometimes
out
you
what
just
to
have
do
to
with
say,
them.
this is a dumpster fire. Sometimes you just gotta say, this is a damn dumpster fire, and I'm just gonna light this thing on fire and find a brand new shiny dumpster, and we'll start over. I don't know what that means, and I'm not trying to be contrite either. But honestly, it for someone that advocately goes all the time, it is exhausting to keep up on what's the priority this time. We didn't even finish up the last time or the time before
Right.
that. And so no wonder that if there's a consistency where we have line items and we're figuring things out, like refreshing policies. That was talked about 3 or 4 months ago, and now that's a new thing. We're going to get all of our policies and procedures handled, which is fantastic because I'm a nerd and I read the things and I like reading policies and procedures. But again, that was months ago. So
Why don't we
that's
just
gonna be
take the
something new.
amphitheater and move it over to the park that Trent's brought up? And we turn that park into an outside space where people can go enjoy music and all of that. And
Yeah.
maybe there's lights on it so kids aren't vandalizing it every day. Trent, what do you think in closing? Because we do have to cut you guys loose. And I think Mike Tyson's about to,
No, it's the,
knock him out.
is he still an hour out?
yeah.
Okay.
Trent, and I know that we've got a whole nother show we could do with you guys. So please know there's an open invitation. I would love to have you back. I would love to go to a meeting and go live from that meeting. If we have enough microphones to mic people, maybe. I know he's like snooze fest, and I appreciate you
I
so
love
much.
going and watching the thieves talk about their plans to heist us.
But he's a lot more negative on that end, whereas we're hoping for something good. But Trent,
Well, here's where I sit.
Hope's
One,
exhausting.
it's easy to spend other people's money. Two, if you throw things into the hands of governments where there's no painful accountability on them, they're going to run amok every time. It's every time. Point one government in history that didn't.
It's true. And
Yeah,
we'll end it
so-
with your thoughts, Trent. I want to hear, you kind of wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so I can't make it to as many meetings as Heather does. This last year, our family's had some personal issues going on. But I look at every agenda, I read the minutes of the meetings, and anything that I can't be at a meeting for, I send to Heather to ask questions or whatnot. But I've got my finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community, and we need the rest of the residents to do the same, to just understand what's going on, because that's probably the single most beneficial thing that could happen, was if the residents knew what was going on around us and started asking the questions, and dive into, if you don't have an answer or they don't provide one, do your own research. That's what I do, and that's how I've gotten to where I'm at. I wish I didn't know the Utah Code for Incorporation as well as I do. But I've had to learn it. I've had to understand where to find the meeting minutes, where to find the agendas. I've had to do the research on a lot of different things so that I understand as much as what the board understands. And I think that's it. It's just community involvement, citizens understanding what's going on, become involved, go to the meetings, because it's your tax money. And if you don't have a say in the meetings of how you want that spent, they're going to spend it however they want to.
And every other Wednesday night,
I believe
Or
it's
is
the
it
first and third Wednesdays
first
of
and
the month.
third, and that's at the clubhouse
That's
And the
the first
schedule's
and
posted,
third
too.
Wednesdays.
They
at
do post a
7
schedule.
or 6.
Depends on the Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay. And do they post it on the Stansbury residence page, or do you got to go to the agency page?
Well,
I know you and your husband post it.
yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's-
they're supposed to post the agenda 24 hours before the meeting. They're actually doing a better job of getting that information out. It is on the Stansbury Park residence page on Facebook, but you can also go to the Utah Public Notice website and sign up So you get those emailed to you every time there's something. I mean, during this meeting, I've had things pop up from the service agency of documents that have been updated. I don't know what they are right now. I didn't look at it, but every time something happens with that agency regarding a public notice, documents updated from meetings, you get an email notification and you can click right into it.
And they've also, I mean, that's improved from last year.
Oh, yeah.
And Cassandra has said, we're going to try to get more transparency. You're going to know this stuff. And like I said, I see them trying. And there's a newsletter still. Is that still going on?
I think it's quarterly, but yeah, I don't think it's monthly anymore.
Okay. So the newsletter you would get by signing up through the agency or through the state website. I think
The
through the agency,
newsletter-
and then I believe it's on the web. It's on their Facebook page too, but it's not mailed or anything. No.
It's just a typed up letter. This is the beginning. And I think we just have to, as a community, we have to look to our neighbors and say, look, it's worth it. And if our neighbor is elderly and can't make it to the meeting, and I can go around maybe and ask a few questions and see, what would you like me to find out? We can be,
and that's kind of what I've been doing.
We can be beacons of hope to our neighbors. Heather, you've been doing awesome at that. I too rely on you for this information so much.
I mean, there's a lot of messages, and there's a lot of, could you ask this, or what about this? And truly, I try to do the very best job that I can with that. But again, I usually go and kind of pivot to you guys as well, just to say, is this completely asinine, or am I on the right page? Because I don't want to end. My biggest thing is there's so much in misinformation that if people can't come and engage, short of spending hours and hours on Facebook saying and regurgitating the same thing or retagging people, I guess in my final thoughts, I just wanted to encourage people to come out and try to avoid the frustration of, oh, I'm sorry, we're not going to answer that at this meeting because we answered that 5 months ago. I guarantee you it's changed 14 times since 5 months ago. So it is really, really frustrating, even for avid people that go. But again, top 3 things that people are passionate about, not that they want, but that they're passionate about, really drive those points, because everybody's passionate, obviously, about their groceries and about their mortgage payments and the things. But, top 3 things that people really can get engaged with, there's just no engagement. And they, again, know that the engagement will trickle. And that's unfortunate.
Well, and a government that doesn't have engagement that's the opportunity for it to go rogue. And not necessarily in a bad way, but they're just going to do what they're going to do because there's no one giving them feedback. And I hate for you to go to all these meetings repeatedly and asking questions on my behalf, on Trent's behalf, and they start to treat you like an annoyance because you are the only one asking
100%.
questions. I don't like that. I think that they need to understand you're there with about 50 messages in your phone that people want you to ask. And so what we need to do is make it easier. We lost Trent, but to make it easier to attend these meetings. And on that note, Heather, we want to have you back. And we're so grateful for all you've done. I can't thank you enough for the meetings you've attended. And you've been a voice of understanding, and you explain things in such a great way that I hope that if people have questions, and your husband too, you guys are both in tune.
He's the manpower behind the things. He's the guy behind the magic. So, I mean, but again, Trent's put so much work into this, and just so many people. Again, people just shouldn't be afraid to engage, even if the story that you think you're passionate about flips because somebody isn't answering your questions. You still have to answer. You still have to ask the questions. And that's really what I want to encourage folks to do.
And the very act of them refusing to answer is very telling. And you learn something from that. And my favorite word is moratorium.
And it is. And I think that's a beautiful word.
I think they need to hold that in their hearts and always ask themselves, is this worth it? Is this worth it? Is it needed now? Can we wait till the economy gets better? Can we wait until some of these taxes go down? Can we wait till we get more built, more houses built, so that we're not putting this all this burden? And what can we do for our senior citizens? How can we make this bearable? I know the county has some tax relief for seniors and veterans. We need to advertise that because I know a lot of seniors are struggling with these new tax hikes. And I just hope that they know there's help out there. So we've gone over, and I'm so grateful for you to be on tonight. We hope you'll come on again. Jared,
Thank
did
you,
you want
guys.
to, did you want to add anything?
No, thank you for coming on. Yeah, and thank Trent for us when you talk to him next. Been
Yeah.
very good.
I'll t-
I just want
Thank
to
you,
say,
guys.
Rooster, I see you.
Hey,
Thanks for the kind words.
let's really quickly go through some of these
Uh,
comments. We can
we-
say bye to Heather,
I
but
don't know if we have enough time to go through a lot of them, but we read most of those. But hi, Sherry. Good to see you.
hi, Mom.
I want to say, Percival, thanks for showing up again. I'm glad to
Yeah,
see
we
you here.
love a healthy troll in our
Yep.
live stream.
Rooster, we see you. Thanks for the kind words
Hey,
to yours
Rooster.
truly. And we hope everyone has a good weekend and a good night. I've got to jump off here because I've got to go and do some shopping.
What?
I know.
Tonight?
Yes. I've
Why
got to
don't you
buy a
have
turkey.
Walmart.com? Like Walmart is the best app ever.
I have to this day
And right now,
still not done any of that
88
stuff.
cents a pound for turkey.
I know, that's what I got to go get.
I'll just
You've
order
gotta-
it right now and they'll deliver it to your house
I've
tonight.
got a turkey thing. No, I've got to get more stuff than that.
You can order everything.
I know, but
And
I'm
you get 10 cents a gallon off
still
gas
a guy.
and Paramount Plus for free.
Thanks for showing up. Go ahead and close out the last words, Holly.
Okay. You guys, I'm sorry if this wasn't as interesting as some of our prior shows, but this affects the county. It affects us, me personally, my family and I. And I know this is happening all over the place, as you heard, Summit County. And we have to be vigilant with our government. With what Celeste Malloy said last time is I'm not sure people are ready for real freedom. That requires accountability, and it's all on us. If we are going to expect a government to give us our freedom that we rightfully have, and we're going to take it back, we have to be vigilant and hold electeds accountable and to demand change. I mean, property tax to me is theft. I think once you've paid off your house, then you should pay maybe something towards education, but not with your house as collateral. I mean, something's got to change. I'm still watching Trump's rollout of what he plans to do. But at the end of the day, y'all, we have to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to educate ourselves on what's going on in our government, and we have to be present. And sometimes we're going to have to be loud. And that's, Jared and I are trying that with this show. We invite anyone who would like to join us on the show to talk about what's going on in their city, in their county, because we really want to educate people and we want to empower people and, make the apocalypse fun.
Mallory, thanks for showing up. Thanks for our comments. Everyone have a wonderful night. We will be back.
I hope Mike
next
Tyson
Friday.
wins. I hope he teaches that young boy a lesson, but I also hope it's not the fix as an end.